Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting from Sydney, Australia. This is the Primodcast. Independent, unfiltered, and uncensored. Beginning in 3, 2, 1.
Matty, how are you, man?
Good, mate. Good.
Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
What's been happening?
Plenty, mate. Just, keeping active, doing what I can, plenty of work, exercise, just the usual family stuff.
We can't do much more at the moment, really, can we?
No, but I mean, it gives you a good time.
You can make the most of it.
Exactly right. Yeah, it gives you a bit of time to maybe focus on a few things that you've been putting off.
Yeah, definitely, man. I've been trying to get that message across now for the last few weeks. I had a few of my live videos that you can make. It's a shit situation, but you can make the most of it. Focus on yourself, focus on a hobby or anything really. I notice a lot of people start running, start exercising, which is positive. But you do a lot of home workout stuff.
Yeah, well, I haven't been to a gym for probably about 6 years now. Everything I do is, as you just said, at home or preferably outside. Just love being outside. The fresh air and sun, I just find it so much more entertaining than the gym environment. And I mean, given what's going on right now, so many gyms are closed anyway. Lucky for me, I didn't have to, it wasn't too much of a big deal. I was already doing those gym-free stuff. But I know obviously a lot of people are kind of hit by the gym closures and things like that. So it's, a tricky situation for a lot of people.
Yeah, so you run programs as well. So people can sort of sign up and I know you post a lot of them on your Instagram and how to do the exercise and whatnot. So a lot of it's body weight stuff.
Yeah, correct. A lot is body weight or very minimal equipment, just a kettlebell or a dumbbell or a pull-up bar. But yeah, majority body weight. So it's accessible to anybody.
You don't need much, man. Like that's what I realized last year when the lockdown started and you couldn't get equipment anywhere. Like you said, you couldn't get weight plates, you couldn't get a dumbbell, couldn't get a trep, nothing. It was all gone, all sold out. So you get what you can from around the house, man. And I think I started like doing lunges with bags of potatoes. That's all I had when I first started. And then eventually get more weights, but you don't need much, man, to get a good workout in. And what you notice is different types of strength. Like I've watched a few of your exercises on your page. I couldn't do it, what you do. The body weight stuff, I'm terrible. Like, give me some weights, I'll lift them, but body weight, man, I'm gone.
Yeah, people, it's a strange conception. I think people, think that body weight's going to be easier because obviously when you've got weights, you're shifting more weight. But body weight's definitely not easy, especially when you take it into some more advanced movements. And as you said, you don't need much, if anything at all, to get in. I know you've been on the home workouts now for a year or two, and you're loving them as well. So you definitely don't need anything. And at the very basic stuff, kettlebell or dumbbell, as you said, it is plenty as well.
Yeah, man, a lot of people are I've seen over the years, a few of my close mates have turned to home workouts too. Man, a lot of the boys just do it in their garage. Prior to this lockdown, we'd all sort of go to each other's place and take turns and what house we work out at. And man, it's a better environment. Even at home, man, I get through my workout, minimal distractions. There's no people standing in front of the mirror taking photos of themselves. So it's there's no egos there, man. You just get in, do your workout, and it's good to be outdoors, man. I feel a lot better working out in the backyard under the sun than what I do inside a gym.
Oh, 100%. And that's that was actually the reason I got sick of the gym and decided to leave. One was because I just kind of hit a wall and wasn't seeing results in the gym. And two, I think I made this decision summertime. I was in Melbourne at the time where I was living and the weather was great. Melbourne, surprisingly. And I'm just like, what am I doing inside every day? It's 25 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, and I'm going inside. So I just gave it up. I'd go down to the beach. I'd train at the beach. I'd train in the backyard. I'd go to a local park. I was using whatever I had. I used to train every day for like a year at a kid's playground and just use the monkey bars to do pull-ups and things like that. So there's always something around that you can use to help you exercise.
Yeah, and I find when I work out outdoors, especially when I go for runs and that around, I used to jump on the treadmill and do those sort of cardiovascular activities using the the standard equipment at the gyms. But man, I started going for runs, and I used to, prior to living where I am now, I used to live sort of in a mountainy area, very fresh air. There wasn't much pollution around, and I'd run up and jog into the mountains, and man, you feel so much better. Like when it's the best, man. Like you can't replicate it with anything. Like the dopamine rush, like you feel good, positive. And I used to do it in the morning. There's some mornings I'd get out there and it was, mate, -2, sometimes -3, freezing. I'd get out there, go for a run, man, and you'd think you'd be tired for the rest of the day, but you're not. You get back home and you're almost refreshed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, big advocate for starting the day with some exercise for sure.
Yeah, I mean, but about you run the business. So, how have you found that in the last sort of 12 to 18 months with this? How's your business doing? Would you say more people are sort of choosing to look for alternatives to the gym, or do you think people are just giving up on it and waiting for them to reopen? What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I do online coaching, and I have done online coaching for about 5 years now. But I also run a boot camp up here in Noosa, which has obviously been impacted when there's lockdowns and things. That has to stop. But my online business has obviously picked up. You know, with gym closures, people were looking for alternatives, as you said. I mean, I think it's a bit split. I think definitely people were thrown off initially. Maybe some still have. I've come across quite a few people who have since joined up and become clients because, you know, they just really struggled with the knowledge and the accountability to do it themselves. Other people have really thrived. Yeah, it's a bit of a mixture. Obviously, there is a ton of people out there that are struggling, that the gym was kind of their release, and I totally understand that. I'm not knocking gyms at all. Whatever works, any exercise is good exercise. But now that's, you know, they've got no control on it. So to stop it altogether, obviously you know, me and you would both be encouraging people to get out, even if it's the run or a walk first thing in the morning. But now with everything dragging on way too long with these lockdowns, you've got to get back into it, whatever it is. I wouldn't be waiting for the gym to reopen. Put it that way.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I think it's a bit of a snowball effect too. So you start with the lockdowns, and then, you know, people struggle initially because they've lost a lot of their freedoms. They can't visit their friends or family, so they're isolated, which we all know, like, you get down, you feel like shit. And then you have a little bit more freedoms taken. Maybe if, you know, some people's outlets go to the shopping center or whatever it may be, and it's sort of closed down. Well, in New South Wales anyway, it's closed down gradually. So bit by bit, you've had a bit of freedom taken. And it's really counterproductive to mental health because, you know, if you're losing all of those
physical health as well. Yeah. Mental and physical.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And physical health ties in a lot to mental health.
Of course. Yeah.
And to close the gyms, like, granted, gyms aren't the most hygienic place on the planet.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some sort of, even, you know, if they were to put a cap on how many people are in at the same time, or, you know, 45 minute to an hour blocks of people, get them out, clean it all up, sanitize it, bring the next lot of people in. There'd be a way to minimize.
Well, I know they're definitely doing that in Europe. I mean, depends where you are in Europe. Some countries are just back to normal, like nothing ever happened. Some are still having, I've got clients, multiple different countries all around the world, but using, you know, the States is open now, so I can't use that, but using Europe as an example, have a few clients in Italy. They have set time blocks that they have to book into. And exactly what you just said happens. They've got that hour and a half or 2 hour block. They've got to book in. There's a break between the sessions, I guess you'd call it. They do a clean, next lot comes through. So, I mean, I think that's, you know, obviously it's not ideal, but it's better than just shutting it and putting a blanket ban. Like, there needs to be middle ground, given the mental health crisis that's going on in this country, which is probably the number one real issue, I would say, going on.
Yeah, I spoke about this in a podcast I did last week, that I'd be confident in saying that the damage to mental health is greater than the damage that's been caused by the virus. I really believe that.
Oh, I think there's no doubt about that, and you only have to look at the stats and the data to back that up. You know, I think it was Victoria, 340 teenagers a week admitted to hospital emergency for self-harm. You know, if they're admitted to emergency, it's obviously pretty serious. You've got minimum of 1,000 suicides since March. So that, I mean, those numbers right there just tell you, bang, like we don't even need to talk about more data. They are figures and facts of what is going on related to mental health, which was directly impacted by what is happening right now in this country. No doubt about it.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. But what's more concerning is the stupidity of these politicians. I watched a video of Dan Andrews. I don't know when it was from, but I only watched it last night.
Don't go watch the sunset, mate. That's illegal.
Oh, mate, I know. Yeah, that's right. Too many problems.
Yeah.
This video, mate, is the mental health is definitely struggling. We're really, really sorry. You know, if there was a way to fix it, we would. They just chuck money at mental health services. That's what they're doing. They're giving additional funding to, organizations like Lifeline and Salvation Army and all these, which is not a bad thing.
You had 10,000 calls to Kids Helpline last week. 10,000 calls. They've had to take on double the number of counsellors. So, you hear stories of kids waiting 4 or 5 hours on hold. So it's obviously just chucking money at it is not the solution.
No. And you imagine if you were those children that are really close to the edge, and thinking of doing, something dramatic, and they're put on hold for 5 hours. They need assistance then and there, because you know what? I work in mental health, and one thing I know very well is that people don't request mental health services. It's that initial jump to actually say, hey, listen, I'm not doing well, I need some help. That's not easy for a lot of people.
No.
So if you chuck a lot of money at the call centers and all these people to take on these calls and responses, but at the end of the day, a lot of people aren't going to make those calls, and they're not going to ask for help. And instead of throwing money at it, as we discussed before, find alternatives. Open the gyms up for an hour and a half, 2 hours a day in blocks for people to go in and use it. That'll solve a lot of the problems.
Mate, they got to start with opening the parks and stuff first, I reckon.
Yeah, well, up there where you are, the parks. Down here, we're lucky that they haven't, I hope I don't jinx it, but they haven't closed them up yet. So,
well, Victoria is, yeah. So, I mean, even outdoor exercise parks and stuff like that being closed is, I mean, come on.
Yeah, mate, it's the virus doesn't spread outside. We know that. There may be an odd case. I know in Australia there hasn't been a case transmitted outdoors. I can't speak on behalf of the rest of the world. I don't know, but even if there was, it'd be extremely minimal. And to put a blanket rule over all outdoor activities and block off parks and it's not,
especially given the scientific proof of what fresh air, exercise, sunlight does for your mental, physical health. That's overwhelming. What all those 3 factors do, and those 3 factors are what has been taken away essentially.
Yeah, mate. Vitamin D. There's a lot of research on the benefits. I'm sure you're aware of it.
Yeah.
Of vitamin D, and I remember at the beginning of the pandemic last year, I was listening to a podcast, and who was it? Dr. Rhonda Patrick was speaking about vitamin D, and there was a few studies that were done initially with COVID patients, and the severity of their illness. And they looked at vitamin D levels, and it was like almost every patient from this study back then. I don't know whether it's still accurate, but this was back then. A lot of majority of those patients with severe illness were deficient in vitamin D. Like it was above 90%.
Yeah.
So vitamin D is extremely important to your immunity in general against not just this virus, but all viruses. It's crucial. And when you're taking that away from people to get outside, and you walk outside now, and I know people that have been fined for being at the end of their driveway without a mask on. I'm being serious. And we're like, that's the problem. There's no logic behind it. It doesn't spread outside rarely. And if you're by yourself, mate, who are going to get the virus from at the end of your driveway or the letterbox? You're not going to get it, but they make you wear a mask. It's just a miserable experience, man. They're making it miserable to be outside. If you get pulled over.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of, you make a good point there. It's just, they talk about mental health and they hint at throwing money because nothing's been done. So we'll say hint at throwing money, but then they'll, do things like that which puts fear in people for simply just stepping outside and going outside. You've got the media with all their fear-mongering headlines about, you know, how disastrous things are. Like, it's completely hypocritical and counterproductive to what they say is they need to help. So it's laughable what the people in charge in the media are doing.
It is, and that's evident. Like, if they were to speak, they're telling one side of the story, and that side of the story, in my opinion, is they want as many people to get vaccinated as possible. So they're pushing that, hey, this virus is so deadly. Look at these people in hospital. Look how many people caught it yesterday. Give us the real numbers. Tell us how many people that caught it yesterday were already. They've got to try and, if they were to balance it out, and if they were to be open and transparent, the level of anxiety would drop dramatically.
Yeah.
When people start realizing, hey, I'm a healthy 30-year-old male or female, I'm not going to end up in hospital and on ventilators from this thing. It's extremely unlikely that it happens. So if they were to just be transparent with all the information, like, you have to ask how many people, like you see the deaths every day, 4 or 5 deaths, and as tragic as deaths are, these people are elderly, 80s, 90s, 70s. You occasionally get one in the 50s or 60s, rarely anything below that.
Yeah.
So it's evident who.
Meanwhile, you've got hundreds each week that are committing suicide. Yeah,
in the prime of their life, 20, 30-year-old people with families and even children are being pushed to the edge because, mate, it's drastic. Now, for the children these days, they spend a lot of time inside, unfortunately. When I was a kid, mate, I'd get up in the morning, I'd spend 30 minutes inside, have breakfast, mate, and my dad would boom straight at the back. That was it. I wasn't allowed back in. He'd quiz me. I want to go inside. What do you need to do? You go to the toilet? Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? I'm bored. I'll go back outside. So, and I'm grateful for that. And I try and do the same thing with my children now. But it's like a lot of the kids spend all their time indoors. That's probably not impact. If this was back when, I'm sure even when you were a child, it'd be even worse for children and teenagers. Spend most of their time outside, most of the time kicking the footy around in the backyard with their brothers or friends or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Mate, they've got to do something to bring the level of anxiety down, because it doesn't, the situation we're in doesn't justify the level of anxiety and fear that's in the community.
Yeah, correct.
So, and mate, if people start doing the right thing, eating the right things, exercising and looking after their health, supplementation.
Yeah, I haven't, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident I'm right. I haven't heard one rule maker, let's call them, come up and say what we should be doing to help us with our health. We should be going outside to get exercise. We should be eating the right foods. Give us something for those that lack knowledge in that area, because we get bombarded with fast food and junk food on TV. That's what everyone's seeing, and no one's up there talking about what can help your physical and mental health through things that within your control. And that is, like, if we're allowed to go out and exercise, which parts of Australia, you've got a time cap on that and stuff. Great. But talk about how you should use that time to get out and exercise. Talk about what foods are beneficial to help you feel better physically and mentally. There's been zero for 2 years, zero talk of that.
Yeah. Mate, look, to be honest, I think I've heard maybe once or twice them sort of briefly touch on it, but no, not in detail. And you think that should be a very regular thing. There should be messages on the TV like you get from the government. Oh, just so you know, COVID, get your vaccine. They should do a similar thing with, hey, listen, remember to do this to protect yourself and protect your family, but they're not doing any of that. It's all, as you said, fast food. Mate, the fact that bottle shops are open, like, how can you justify that I can't go out and buy a push bike or some exercise equipment if I wanted to, unless I do a click and collect.
Yeah.
Yet you walk straight into a bottle shop. Like, it's not in what they're doing, isn't in the interest of our health. It's not.
It certainly seems that way. Yeah.
They're too reliant on instead of preventative measures, and I'm not going to get into that because there's many, and this will probably get canned if I mention a few names of medications that have been proven to be effective at early treatment, but preventative things, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, exercise, eating the right foods, all these things are preventative. So, and mate, I don't get the flu. I think I've had it once in my life. I don't get sick. And one thing I am consistent with, I have times of up and down where my diet might not be the best, but I'm always consistent with my supplementation and my exercise. That's one thing that's never changed. And mate, I can be around sick people. Other people get sick. I'm fine. So you can't deny the benefits in eating the right things and making sure you take the right supplements if you need to protect yourself and to boost your immune system.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just a shame that's sort of been neglected.
It is. Yeah.
Mate, hopefully something changes very soon because it can't go on much longer. Really, it can't.
No, I mean, you know, you're pretty active in the community. I see a heap of people daily. I'm active in my community, obviously with fitness and mental health. And everyone's on the same page, I think. So the community testament is exactly that. And I think, you know, the majority of people need to start being listened to now.
Yeah, I think slowly, like I've noticed that there's a bit of a change especially in the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks. There's a change in the way a lot of people before who were supportive of the government's decisions and believe what they're being told, a lot of them now are starting to go, hold on a second, you know, what you're saying contradicts what you said 3 weeks ago, and, you know, vice versa. So I think people are slowly starting to wake up to it. And if enough people speak up about it, and this is obviously not to encourage or incite anything, but if enough people get involved and get active in their communities in terms of speaking about mental health, speaking about the importance of exercise and nutrition,
exactly,
positive changes.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's just about people coming up and talking about the good things, what you just said, the good things of what you can do. And that is, you know, everything that we've touched on with exercise and fresh air and, you know, good food. So all those things are within everyone's individual controls. And that's what people should really be hearing and really being focusing on. Yeah.
And it's important to let people know that I think we should all realize that if we all were to jump on our roofs and scream out and yell at the government for what's going on and demand changes, listen, it's not going to happen. It's simple. It's sad to say, but it's not going to happen. They will change these things when they want to change it.
Yeah.
So instead of doing that and wasting that energy and time that people are putting into that, change it up a little bit, because you're not going to help anybody by doing that. If we're being honest, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So get out there and spend that time focusing on just messaging a mate of yours, or send them some facts about, you know, getting out there, encourage them, motivate them to start exercising.
Yeah,
whatever it may be.
Yeah. Spend that time on bettering yourself, checking in with friends and family, and making a positive change within your group of people, because that's got an on-flow effect as well. You know, you tell 20 mates, well, they're going to go tell their friends as well, and then you know, everyone's kind of on the same page in terms of, you know, now's the time that we can really focus on us and our community in terms of doing what we know is right, and that's looking after the health through exercise and nutrition and all of those things that are in our control.
Yeah, that's right. And the first podcast I did with my buddy Jackson Tippett, we spoke about a similar thing, that you have to try and, you know, Jack's good guy.
Yeah.
He's
I've had a chat with him on his podcast as well. He's a great fella.
Mate, he is. He's a genuinely good, kind-hearted individual, which, let's be honest, is getting rarer and rarer at the moment. Yeah. So, mate, he's willing to spend time and talk to people and help people. And one of the things that we discussed was that, you know, turn this into something positive, be proactive. You can sit at home all day in the corner watching the TV and listening to the bullshit that goes on them TV channel. You can do something. Get up, as you said, exercise, start doing something positive. Turn it.
Yeah, learn a new skill. Learn a new skill, read some books, do something that you've been putting off that you couldn't when you had a much busier life, I guess. I mean, it's easy to say, I get that. I don't mean to take it away, because I know there's families that are actually busier now because they're trying to work from home at the same time that they're trying to look after their kids, at the same time that they're trying to homeschool their kids. So I do want to sympathise. I don't even know how people do that. Have a couple of kids and both parents working and they're in the house at the same time. So that is hats off to them.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, that's probably the hardest thing going around. But then that just comes back to, how are those people coping? Like that, the stress that families are under, having to be a parent, having to be a teacher, a provider, everything all in one is, I can't imagine, to be honest. So,
mate, homeschooling is one of the toughest things I've ever done.
Oh,
Now,
okay,
mate,
yeah, I can't imagine.
I've been through a lot of shit, but let me tell you now, one session of homeschooling is fucking brutal.
Yeah. Well, my son's 4, so he's not at school yet. So I'm just hoping that this madness ends before he starts school next year. That's for sure.
I don't know how school teachers do it day after day. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, they're a good bunch.
Oh, mate, they are. But yeah, look, not everyone has the luxury of having a lot of free time, and
of course, yeah.
But look, even if it's a small change, man, like even instead of watching, some reality show or whatever people watch at night, like fucking Married at First Sight or whatever's on at the moment.
Yeah.
Instead of that, read a book, learn, watch. But I've got into documentaries in the last few weeks.
Get all your family together at night and bring them into something. Play some board games. All read a book together. Interesting history, things like that. I know with my son, he's got Swedish in him from his mother, and we try and teach him a bit about Sweden and the history and the culture behind all that, which as a 4-year-old boy finds Vikings pretty cool.
Little Viking, mate.
Yeah, so it's stuff like that, that you can do, which is educational at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's right. I think if you were to have, look, I said, I've started really getting to documentaries the last few weeks. I watch one every night, and man, some of the shit is incredible. Yeah. Like that one I watched last night, or the other night, that fantastic, was it Fungi that I posted? I watched, mate. Have you seen that?
No, a few people have told me about to watch that though.
Oh man, it's unbelievable.
I'll get on it,
mate. It's terrific. I've actually got a guy next week coming on who's involved in mushrooms, not psychedelic, but in terms of the health benefit lines.
Yeah, well, I've been taking mushroom extracts for a couple of years now. There's they'll get a little plug out of this. Life Cycle from Byron Bay, an Aussie company that's kind of worldwide now. I started with them, I think, when they were first starting up, and it's mushroom extracts. So just little drops that you can straight in your mouth or in your coffee or water or whatever. And the benefits I've felt from that stuff is unbelievable.
Mate, you know what? I was on their website last night. I was working out because they got lion's mane. There's a few of them there.
Yeah, I know them all.
And I know at the moment, if you get the kit, they throw you in a pair of socks. These mushroom socks. It was pretty cool. But I was looking at it last night, but I was just trying to get an understanding of them to work out sort of which ones I'd benefit from and whatnot. But I'll be definitely getting something from those guys. Mate, the reviews on them,
I can recommend you some ones that I've really felt the difference in as well. So yeah
definitely. I think if we can just do things like that, man, get a bit of research and learn something and try some new things. And if you would have told me a year ago that I'd be interested in taking mushroom extract, I'd laugh at you. I'd be like, no way, that's not going to happen. What? But when you learn a little bit more and you try, it can make a huge change in your life.
Yeah, for sure.
So, mate, I'll jump into a sort of a personal topic for you now, which we discussed off camera before. Mate, so you had cancer when you're a young bloke, 21, you said, 2021?
Yeah, 21, 22 in that period, right near my birthday.
Okay, mate, and so you've obviously overcome that and you pushed through it. So, mate, tell us a little bit about that. How was that?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer at 21, which is, not a word that anyone wants to hear, the C word, the cancer word.
Mhm.
Um, at any age, obviously, being a bit younger was probably harder. Um, it's, I don't want to say better, but it's one of the most curable of cancers. Um, so I mean that always helps as well. But yeah, I did the operation, I did the chemotherapy, um, and all that jazz. But yeah, really made me stronger, physically and mentally. It gave me a good change. Maybe not initially. It stopped my aspirations of wanting to play a professional sport, which I was traveling for a while and things like that. But you know, when I look back on it now, I'm pretty grateful that it happened, to be honest. So it's helped me. It kickstarted the desire to help me help other people, not just physically but mentally. So yeah, I mean, I think only good things have come out of it. Really.
It would have been very tough, because it's probably the last thing you expect. Like when we're young, all of us are the same. We think we're invincible and that, oh, we don't get sick, we don't get this. These are sort of diseases that you would expect sort of 50, 60 onwards. So it
Yeah.
must have sort of definitely caught you by surprise.
Yeah, definitely. I was telling you, yeah, off camera that it was what it was the second most common cancer behind skin cancer in young males, 16 to 30 odd, I believe it is. I haven't checked that up again recently, but that was definitely the case a few years ago. Last time I had a look at that, yeah. So I mean, in saying that, it's it's worth, as specifically with this one, it's worth males, being health conscious physically as well, and going to their doctor if they do think anything is wrong or abnormal.
Yeah, man, a lot of people don't like going to the doctors, myself included. I hate it. But
Yeah.
I walk into a doctor's room and I get on the blood pressure machine and it's fucking nearly blows it up. I hate being in there, man, but you have to. Like, I know my father had prostate cancer a few years back now, and that was really
Yeah.
tough. But
Yeah.
again, prostate cancers, you can, if you get it early, it's very treatable. And
Yeah.
that was in his case. He's very fortunate. I think we're all fortunate that he's still around today. And it sort of opened our eyes up because we found out it's hereditary, and his specialist was
Yeah.
saying there's a very good chance you boys will get it. And so we
Yeah.
keep an eye
Right.
on that. Every time I get a blood test, I get my PSA level checked and make sure that it's sort of not out of control and sort of wacky. So, mate, sometimes you do need to go through things or have people around you that go through some tough times, and you can, as I said, especially in your case, you've sort of taken it on and come out the other side of it probably a better man. You probably look at things a bit differently, and
Sure. Yeah.
mate, that's the main thing. But mate,
Yeah.
I sympathise. For it wouldn't have been easy at that
Yeah.
age going through that. But yeah, man, it's these things. Whether or not that could have been prevented in your case, but again, man, a lot of diseases that we have, and that especially as we get a little bit older, can be prevented by making better decisions when you're younger.
Yeah. For sure.
And mate, I said, look, you just even change of diet, just not, but you have to be full on with it, like go in 110%, but just make simple changes.
Yeah.
Like one of the
Yeah.
worst things that you can have is sugar. That's
Yeah.
fucking terrible. Go and get that out. Take it out of your coffee. Gradually decrease
Yeah.
2 to
Yeah.
1 and then none. Small changes can have an impact in 20 years.
Of course. Yeah.
But a lot of people like sort of the instant feeling, or with everything in life, you like getting that instant rush that you've done something and you feel good immediately, but it's not the case with
No.
these things. It takes time, but you will be thankful for it years down the
Yeah.
track.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And I think when you say the word diet or nutrition, you get people think, they freak out and they instantly freeze up and think they've got to, eat their steamed broccoli and oven baked chicken breasts and things like that, which I know I did as a young dude as well when I was into the gym. But it's not about that. It's exactly what you just said. It is just being a little bit more wary of what's actually in your food, be that sugars or, harmful fats, or, I mean, too much of anything's not good, right? So it's just everything in moderation. Do you really need that KFC? You know.
No, that's hard for me, mate. A good zinger.
I
Struggle.
I actually had my first KFC like last month in probably 5 years or something like that.
Wow.
So
I bet it was good, but
it was good.
That's very good.
That's the thing. Like I never tell people they can't eat anything. I'm a big advocate for eating whatever you want within moderation, and just making slightly healthier decisions, whether that's to cut back on putting your mayonnaise on your food, just little things over time, as exactly what you said, add up to big things. And that goes with all things in life, exercise. Start with 10, 15 minutes a day if it's not your thing, and then build up.
Yeah. It's the people tend to sort of put a blanket over things like, okay, chocolate's bad for you, lollies are bad for you, but dark chocolate is very beneficial. It's good for you. It's not bad for you, providing you get the right type. It's a lot more beneficial than harmful. And just be mindful of because these companies that make these foods, especially the pre-packed frozen meals, they're fucking terrible for you. They've got so much salt in it.
Yeah.
It's not good. And if you can just try and eat as close to natural as possible.
Yeah. And that all comes down to laziness, I think, because exactly what you said, pre-ready meals, frozen meals, shorts, you take it out of the packet, you jam it in the microwave and it's ready in 2 minutes. Or you can spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes replicating that meal out of fresh ingredients, and stuff like that will go a long way to benefiting your health.
Yeah, absolutely. So, mate, what about yourself? So what do you got in the pipeline? Anything exciting coming up for the back end of the year?
Just work, mate. Just keep helping everyone. I'd like to think through my content, because that's what it's about. I put it out. So, and this is the free content as well. So I'm not trying to drum up business, but the stuff I post on my Instagram and my YouTube channel can change life, and that doesn't cost anything. I'm just very confident that I know what it does. I get messages from people, I've been following you for 6 months and I do your workouts every day and I've lost 30 kilos and I'm not on blood pressure meds anymore. And, that they haven't bought a program. And I love that. That's fine. So yeah, just keep doing what I'm doing in that, reaching people around the world, helping them, because that's the type of messages that I love to hear. And then doing what I can within my control, mate. So just playing with the little guy, getting him outside, spending time with family, friends, whatever we can do that makes us happy.
Yeah, you're involved in mental health. I noticed as well. You do a lot of mental health advocacy work and different things. Do you incorporate that into your pages, or what do you do with that?
Yeah, well, within the community, the boot camp that I run, there's an element of that with some people online as well. With my coaching, it's like the whole package. It's mindset, which is obviously ties into mental health. It's nutrition and exercise as well, obviously. And then just more and more recently, I've really tried to highlight what's going on in this country with mental health, just as these figures are coming up, and simple freedoms such as playgrounds and parks and things getting closed and taken away from parents and families and people who are at their wits' end. I've had a lot of people reach out to me who are really struggling and heartbreaking stories about, finding notes in diaries of their 8-year-old child talking about not wanting to live anymore because they can't go to school. So that's really prompted me to speak up for kids, for people that don't have a voice, I guess, and to use whatever platform I have to try and highlight, as I said at the very start, in my opinion, the most serious illness in this country right now.
Yeah, mate, you're absolutely right. It's as we said earlier, mate. It's causing a lot more damage than what this virus is causing, and there needs to be some changes. Now, I don't think we're all asking for it'd be great, but we're not all asking for to sort of strip everything back and go back to how we were 3 years ago, but just some important changes that will make a world of difference. Reopening parks in certain places where they're closed, gyms, things like that. Getting more community access. Because I know at the moment as well, another problem is that these organisations who may have done home visits before and were more involved in the person. So if someone was to call up, for example, a mental health service, they may do regular check-ins with them face to face once or twice a week. That can't happen at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's the isolation too, mate. You know, humans are meant to be around people. And just the isolation, if you're living at home and you're by yourself, you're a single. I know New South Wales has a singles bubble. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
Don't really know that.
Within 5 kilometers. So you want to hope that your other half lives within 5 Ks. So, mate, again.
Yeah. So I just meant like that's probably rarely possible, to be honest. You know, a lot 5Ks is not much, and to not be, you know, I've spoken to people actually just yesterday, a single mum, 3 kids, can't even have her mum come over. This is in Melbourne. Can't even have her mum come over to help her with the kids as she's trying to work and homeschool 3 kids. I mean, that it's insanity, and the damage that is causing, again, far outweighs anything going on in this country right now.
You know, I was reading this morning as well that your premier up there, Anastasia Palaszczuk, she let the families of footballers go enter the state.
Yeah.
Even though they canned the hotel quarantine system, so apparently no one was supposed to enter the state. She let the footballers.
Well, I've got good friends of mine in Victoria from Melbourne who are relocating up to where I am. Actually, they had their boxes, everything was packed. The trucks taken their things. They only had, you know, what was in their carry-on bag. That ended their lease in Melbourne. They've got a lease up here. They were meant to leave. Let's just use Monday as an example. On Sunday, she said, "Nah, we're closing it. No one can come in. There's no more rooms in the hotels." And they're essentially homeless while they're paying a mortgage up here, while they're paying rent, sorry, not a mortgage, up here. They've got 2 kids. They're both working full time. They're both trying to homeschool as well. And they've got nowhere to live. And technically they're Queensland citizens now and they can't come in, but a plane full of relatives from sports stars and international cricket team, I believe, as well, gets let in, which is just insanity.
She actually, there was a lady that I posted it this morning. A lady went to her mother or someone's funeral down in Victoria. Queensland resident, lived in Queensland, went down to Victoria. Pardon?
I saw that this morning too, actually.
Yeah, they won't let her back to go home. She can't go home.
Yeah,
but I think they've backflipped on that now. I heard she's backflipped on that decision.
There's just so many stories of stuff like that. People crossing the border, New South Wales Queensland border, to drop off a relative if they live pretty close to a border town. Spent the night with the relative. Tried to cross back the next morning into Queensland. Nah, all their work's in Queensland, their homes in Queensland. Not allowed back in.
It completely discredits what they say. It's when they say we act on the best available health advice. Are they getting advice from 2 different people where one is saying, yeah, let the footballers' wives in, but the other one's going, no, you can't let anyone in? How's it? If they're getting their health, obviously she's not a doctor. She's getting her advice from somewhere, but the advice isn't consistent with the message that, we're in.
Yeah, I think that's the problem too. And that's where the community disdain, I will say, is really starting to grow louder, because sure, like no problem. Of course, those players miss their family, and that's what I'm talking about. So it's not like, nah, they shouldn't be allowed in. Of course, family should be with family, but in every aspect. Don't just do it for the NRL or the AFL or the cricket team because they're generating tens of millions of bucks. Like, do it for the average Joe that still loves his wife and kids as much as they do. It's just a fucking joke, to be honest.
And it is, and I think we've all got issue with all our premiers down here, but from day dot, I don't use this word lightly, and people don't like this word, but there's no other way to describe her. Your premier up there, Palaszczuk, she's a cunt. I can't say that. There's no other word for her. And if that's been from the beginning, going over to Tokyo, going to the Olympics, to bid for Queensland to host the Olympic Games, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I'm sure that could have been done on Zoom too, to be honest.
That's what I mean. There's no consistency. It's one rule for them, a different rule for everybody else.
Yeah.
And, it's people are starting to get the shits, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But it's heartbreaking.
It's the heartbreaking, but it's also the problem because it's you want to trust in the government. You elect them to serve for your best interests, to speak for you. And everyone I've spoken to over more recent times, let's say the past 6 months, is direct contradiction to what these politicians and the rule makers are saying. So I'm not sure who they're speaking to, but I haven't met one person that they're speaking for, put it that way.
No, and I think the people just want an honest, I know it's the two words don't even sound good together, an honest politician. But, mate, there's some out there that do have good intentions. Like I had Malcolm Roberts on here, good guy, really good guy.
Yeah, there's definitely a few that are speaking up for what's right, I believe.
Craig Kelly went in Parliament and just slaughtered the New South Wales government the other day, which was great to see. And you know what? You may not agree with all of their policies and their stances, but I think overall they have the right intentions when it comes to.
Well, that's exactly right. I was speaking to my wife the other day, and whatever party affiliation, I mean, at the end of the day, the people in charge right now, in my opinion, are purely doing it for politics, because otherwise it makes no other sense, because they're definitely not doing it for the health, because the figures of self-harm speak for themselves. So these politicians that, a few that you've just mentioned, who are speaking up, regardless of what party they're affiliated with, they're speaking up on behalf of the people really struggling. Their policies, all the other policies are being forgotten. They're focusing on the mental health and the freedoms that every Australian deserves living in what is known as a democratic country. So, yeah, I think if people are like, oh, that guy, he's a fucking idiot. He's affiliated with this. Or, yeah, whatever. But right now, he's fighting for what's real. And that's your health and your kids' health and your family's health, So I think that the political affiliation needs to be put aside and needs to have more focus on the message.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely a few of them that are doing what's in our best interest, and that's not what's been happening at state and federal levels for 18 months. I think at first with that, when it first started, to sort of up until the end of last year, we all sort of went along with it because we didn't know, like no one really knew much about it, the extent, what it's doing, and we didn't know. It was a brand new thing. But I think now people are waking up to it. And even the politicians, the ones that are now opposing what's happening from the government are saying, listen, Craig Kelly's, Malcolm Roberts, they've said the same thing. We went along with what they wanted last year and what they suggested because no one knew what was going to happen. It was all unknown. But now we can see, we've been living with it for 18 months. We can look at overseas for their statistics and see what's happening over there. And what's happening here at the moment is not, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. There's no logic behind it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it needs to end very, very soon. But man, keep doing what you're doing anyway. Keep getting the message out there and the important messages of health, fitness, and anyone can do what you do, man. It's at home. Yeah. I've looked at your videos. Well, I can try and do it. Whether I'll be successful in
anyone can do it, mate. Anyone can do it.
I might get 1 or 2 reps out, but mate, that's important. So mate, keep doing what you're doing. Keep
Thank
spreading
you,
that
likewise.
message. And mate, we'll definitely chat again soon, hopefully in better circumstances.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. All the best.
You too, mate. Cheers.
All right, take care, mate. Bye.
Bye.